Revelation on 1843. From the 9th of March 1941. Uncomprehension. Unused grace. People have little understanding for a process which is of deepest significance if they don't make use of the results of a mental connection with the beyond. It is immensely valuable for a person to be instructed by spiritual knowing forces in God's will, and it is an undeserved grace when these instructions may also be accepted by fellow human beings. Thus they are, in a manner of speaking, offered the same as an earthly child which surrenders itself to God. Thus every person can participate in this undeserved grace. However, hardly any notice is taken of it, and this proves that the process does not seem extraordinary to them at all. On the other hand, however, nothing unusual can obviously be conveyed to people if they are not to be forced into a compulsive faith. And through too weak faith people deprive themselves of a grace which could earn them highest maturity of soul if it were used. If a person recognizes divine activity, he will also commit himself with full conviction, and then God's grace will flow to him. But those who don't pay attention to the transmissions from above, that is, who don't make the content their own, will only receive divine strength to a limited extent. And their thinking will be erroneous, for they rely on the judgment of eloquent people who reject it out of arrogance because they cannot and do not want to grasp that they themselves were not called upon for a task, since their degree of maturity appears higher to them, or they want to feign a high degree of maturity. Therefore people must try to pass on to each other so that God's grace is used properly. And time and again the way of transmission has to be shown to fellow human beings, their own inactivity has to be described to them, and also the ignorance which preceded this recognition. For only when they are convinced that a mysterious process is taking place here which is earthly unsolvable are they inclined to acquaint themselves with the content, and then the game is won, for they cannot raise any objections against the content. They find themselves in the train of thought, and now they start to think about some things, or they ask questions, by which they now mentally desire instructions and thus enter into contact with knowing forces themselves, and this is the actual purpose, that the knowing beings in the beyond find access to people and can now carry out their actual task on them, to mentally instruct them themselves. Amen.